All right, one more delay, no problem. All right, I'll just be waiting patiently and enter all the code and the password. I don't get it. You're always so busy, Daryl. Like 10 million things in one day. You're always just pushing the limits. I'm here early, waiting, always on time, prepared for anything. At least that makes one of us. Jeez. 2 minutes to showtime.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
2 minutes to showtime.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I don't understand. I don't get it. 2 minutes to showtime. You know the feeling that our guests have waiting in the waiting room, right?
What?
You know the feeling that our guests have waiting in the waiting room while we're like getting the show ready or doing our little intro?
No, tell me, what feeling do they have?
No, because
Okay.
you wouldn't know because everyone's always waiting on you.
Oh, that's so
Because
not.
I just did that for 25 minutes and I swear it's painful. It's so lonely just sitting looking at a computer with nothing happening.
You get used to it
Do you?
sometimes. Yeah,
Do you? All
yeah.
right. Well, let's bring on our guest and let's get the show rolling.
Let's get the show rolling.
Yeah.
Now I'm
There's
all
no
famished. Now I'm all
time.
like, I'm all over
You
the
made it.
place. You don't even know what happened. I got to tell you the whole story here.
Yeah,
Hello.
you did a great job.
Hi,
Hey, Juliet, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Thank you for your
Good.
patience.
Yeah, no
Thank you
problem.
so much. It's all my fault. I
I'll take
swear.
responsibility. I should have told him
All
it
my
started at
fault.
half an hour earlier than what it really was. And then that
No
way
problem.
Yeah,
all
but
the technical stuff would have worked itself out.
oh,
No problem at all.
what a disaster. Okay, so we thought people tell us our sound sucks. So I bought these new like lapel mics,
Okay.
and I'm testing it out, and I'm all
Test it out
panicked.
right at the show, like at the moment that it's supposed to
No,
be
no, no,
recording. Like,
no. I listen. I'm not a YouTuber, okay? Like I have a life and I have a couple of things going on. But what happened was all of a sudden while I'm testing this thing and TK's pressuring me to hurry the hell up, okay?
it's my
I
job.
I spill my coffee on my earphones, okay?
Oh,
And then
amazing.
but then I forget I've got this lapel mic all in my shirt and I jump back and the whole desk goes everywhere. There's coffee all over the place. Then my earphones don't work anymore because I spilled the coffee right where
This is a
the
true
Amazing.
story. This is a true story.
Please tell me someone was recording this go down.
No, of course,
Damn it.
none of the good stuff, right? Never the good stuff.
Right.
Too
So
bad.
when I reached out to you because I heard the Bigger Pockets podcast, I said that we're nowhere near as big. I should have said
Sure.
nowhere near as professional as well, but I left that part out. It wasn't a good sales pitch, so I figured
Yeah.
we'll just say we don't have as
No
many people listening.
problem.
Yeah.
We are far from professional, but it's
I
part
love
of our
it.
charm. Yeah. I think we're
Yeah,
like
no,
a
it's great.
garage band, right?
It's great. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Landlord.
This landlord software is a game changer. You upload your properties, right? You upload all the information, income, expenses, timelines, mortgage details, everything that you need to have so that you keep track of everything in your portfolio. And as you go through real-time adjustments in, rent increases and water bills and tax bills and everything else, they're going to actually give you recommendations on how to make your portfolio more efficient. And it just breaks everything down for me in a way that I've never seen before. Like Excel spreadsheets just don't cut it. I don't think there's a better program or app out there for investors, and it's free.
Please click the link below for your free trial offer.
So you're in Hawaii.
I am in Hawaii right now. Yeah,
Okay.
I primarily live in Hawaii, and then I do like 90% Hawaii, 10% Colorado.
Tough
And I'm
life.
trying to, yeah, it's pretty great, honestly. And I'm trying to switch
it's
that
rough.
to be more Colorado coming next year because the property taxes, not property taxes, excuse me, the taxes in general in Hawaii are kind of ridiculous. So I'm trying to
Mm.
switch that around business wise to have more stuff come through Colorado. Because for
Smart.
my tax bracket here in Hawaii, it's 17% versus like 4.2 something or 4 point something in Colorado. So it's
Everyone
like,
should move to Colorado.
What the
Yeah.
hell's wrong with 17%?
oh, just love giving the government money that they don't need. Just
No,
drives
but
me
for
crazy.
compared
But
to
how is
here, that's
Hawaii?
low, isn't it? TK, am I wrong?
Maybe just like a state tax. They might have like
State
federal
tax.
stuff on top of that, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct.
But Hawaii, like, why is Hawaii not like overrun with people? Like, there should be like a gazillion people living in Hawaii, and there should be no room for anybody to live. It's like that's the place to be.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like that in a way, because well, I live on Oahu and I live in Waikiki, so I live in the like
Mhm.
the highest touristic area of
Yeah.
Hawaii in general, and it is very populated. And now coming out of COVID, you're really seeing like I kind of forgot because for 2020 it was amazing. There's nobody around, super super quiet, but there are just people absolutely everywhere, and it's kind of nice though as an island as a whole because it's so eclectic. You can kind of get the country on this island, and then you can get, a little bit remote, and then you have a lot of the military families and personnel that are here, and then a lot of the tourism stuff. So it's a bunch of different things. And then it also feels like Asia for a big portion of it. So it's really neat. But I've looked at it and it's extremely transient, this island. So you have the military people that move in for maybe 2 to 3 years with their orders, and then they'll, get shipped out. So they're always kind of coming and going all year round. And
Mm.
then a lot of other people just come here for a little bit of work sometimes, and then they leave. You have people coming for vacation, and now with remote workers, you have even more circulation like that. And then other people that just vacation here, or I'm sorry, have vacation homes, and they'll spend a portion of the year here. So it's got a lot of movement to it, which honestly keeps the real estate market very, very healthy and very hot because you have so much activity all the time from being a global market. I have a lot of Canadian, Australian, Korea, China, Japan on top of America looking to buy here. And then on top of the, military personnel that are always over here. So it's a very active market and island. So it never really piles up with like just a ton of people because there's always seeming to be people leaving, whether that's because it's too expensive for some, whether because some people don't love the island life after a while or a job calls them
Mm.
elsewhere. There's just a lot of movement enough. We don't have a ton of new development. We have some. I'm not going to say we have none, but we don't have a ton. So it's interesting how it's kind of like kept it without like going over the top brim of people exploding into this place. There's enough people that kind of move out from here. So there's certainly like definitely low inventory as there is all over the nation, but in Hawaii there's low inventory, but it somehow manages to kind of sustain. I'm not going to say that's a good thing.
It's
There's an
kind of
inventory
weird.
problem,
Isn't
but
it weird?
yeah, it is kind of weird. I mean, it's nice and healthy to me with the circulation, I guess, but it is not weird, but it's I wish there was a little bit more development that was able to be done. And I think that's why, I really like working with investors, especially on like the flipping side, because there's so many homes here, in my opinion, in a lot of other places I see. But when I see homes that need some love, that's an opportunity to bring something back to the market in a
Yeah.
way that is affordable enough for people, for the community here, for buyers from the mainland to really come back and invest in. There's just a lot of stuff that's sometimes sitting. There's also people who have properties that don't want to sell, that are run down for whatever reasons, and there's a whole conversation to be had about that. But that's why I
They
really
need a
like.
therapist. They don't need a real estate agent, right? They need
Yes,
something else
exactly.
over and above.
Yeah, yes, for some of those.
Are these investors mainland people or outside of the island, like Canadians, international, or a lot of those flippers local?
It's a combination. Primarily the ones that I work with are local, which is great. I really, really like working with people that are from here that are doing positive things for the community here, because I know that that is a big problem of the community that's here and from here. They often feel like, most places that are, where you're born here, you're third, fourth, fifth generation here. They're feeling like people are taking a piece of their land. And of course, Hawaii has a long history of that. So, I feel very good really interacting with a lot of local investors. There are some that are from other places. I have a great guy that I work with who's a client and investor of mine. He's from Canada, and really like working with him. But I primarily work with local investors.
like the big investors like Robert Kiyosaki, you know, Brandon Turner, like these, you know, guys who are like pretty popular in the real estate investment circle. I always hear about Hawaii. I've actually been to Waikiki. That's the only place I've been to. I went to Oahu, and it just seems like there's an amazing opportunity in Hawaii. Like, why aren't more people there? It's like
That's
trendy
what I'm trying to
Airbnbs,
figure out.
Well,
rentals,
sure.
retirement. Like,
It doesn't make
geez,
sense.
So what it is,
Everybody that goes there must go, I want to move here.
I
like,
never want to leave.
now. I
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
want to leave. How do we move here? And then
sure.
what you're
I think
saying doesn't make any sense to me.
I think the number one thing is the cost. I mean, it's
Cost.
very expensive to live here and
Oh.
to buy here. So
Yeah.
that is what's keeping everybody from moving here, is that it's tremendously, for some people, expensive. Like, I was just looking for a woman that called me this morning she wants what a lot of people call me for. They want a short-term rental property, Airbnb, something in Waikiki, and under $300,000 with parking, with one parking stall. That is very hard to find. That is just
Yeah.
not what our market has. So I sent her 3 listings. I just had a property that closed that fit that criteria, but it's like 295. There's another one that's 310, doesn't come with parking, and it's a studio. It's like very, very small, and that's going to be at $295,000, you know, for a fee simple property in that price range. There's only like 3 or 5 listings that I was looking at for her that fall within that almost criteria, still not having a parking stall. So that's one example, but that's the main thing, is the price. And not only just the cost of housing, but the cost of living. People always talk about the gallon of milk thing, but it's just in general, groceries are going to be a bit more. Things are indeed a bit more.
The island life, that's what that reference was, island life, right? Like maybe sometimes supplies, different
Imports.
things.
Yeah, all
Exactly.
imports.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in the middle of nowhere, so they have to
Yeah.
ship it, and shipping costs things. So
But
it's kind of something that when I first moved back here from Salt Lake City, Utah, I moved here about 5 years ago. This is where my mother's from, and my mother's side. But I moved here, and I did have that sticker shock. I was like, oh my God, like, it's so expensive. But then I thought about it, and I was like, but like, look at all of these other amazing things that I kind of get for free or are part of the package of living here, which is the wonderful weather year round. It's absolutely beautiful. It kind of feels resort-ish on Oahu. You know, there's certain areas, it's just beautiful all the time. And so I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, oh, you kind of just have to pay like a fee. Like your fees here are just basically like a membership almost. And then you get these amazing amenities included for it that you can, there's so
Whoa.
many great parks and so many great nature things
Realtor
that
alert.
cost nothing. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
That was a good
Resort fee.
spin. That was
Yeah.
great. That was amazing. So hold on a sec. Back up a sec. So 295 for this place.
Let's look at
and
that deal. Yeah.
What's the rent on that?
So that's actually not a bad one, because this specific one, and another thing that's kind of limiting people from being able to purchase in the way that they want is we have a lot of regulations for Airbnb properties. There's a lot of rules and regulations that go into that. So there's really a limit of buildings that allow for nightly rentals, and they just passed some other bill, Bill 41, that is further constraining people from doing nightly or short-term rentals. They're changing the term from short-term rentals to be 30-day to like, I think 180-day or something that doesn't mean short anymore. But they were going through with that. So a lot of these buildings are unable to do nightly rentals. This one specifically is, but it's zoned as a condotel. So you typically would have to probably buy it in cash or do a certain type of loan that allows for condotel purchasing, which might have a higher rate. So that might not be ideal. So if you want to buy it, I would recommend doing cash. This specific unit, you could put into the hotel rental pool. You pay them, I think it's 15% or so to manage the property, which is quite low for this specific building. And then I think they are able to possibly rent it out hotel prices anywhere from, you know, 150 to maybe 300, depending. So you could really shake it out if you find
12
the right
months of the
deal.
year, though.
12 months of the year. And it's
Yeah,
in
that's
Waikiki,
huge.
and it's 2
Yeah.
blocks away from the water. You know, like it's,
Mhm.
I
What's
can
the
walk to it.
occupancy though? Because you're doing it through like a program, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
a so
Management
Hotel
company.
rental pool.
yeah. So
Mhm.
what kind of
Mhm.
occupancy do you get in that?
Yeah, well, that kind of varies almost from, you know, the unit that you have, the floor level, the view, that can play a lot of factors into that. So, you know, occupancy rates, they've been kind of whack over the last 2 years, obviously. But, you know, I'd say from what I was hearing, a lot of the other owners in that building were seeing very, very healthy occupancy rates where it's just maybe 20 days out of the month for sure were filled up. and there's only a few slow months. So that's on a healthy, like when you find a very good opportunity and you market it well, you can make quite good money if you purchase it the right way. If you're doing it in cash, typically, because you know those loans are going to bite into you. The HOA fees are quite expensive. A lot of people have that sticker shock with those here, so those can factor in. But if you're able to buy cash, um, and find a building that allows for that, and then market it well, and then, you know, have it look great, you know, do all of these things to check all of the boxes and make sure you get those heads in beds, you could make good money from doing that. So I have some clients, I have some colleagues that have Airbnbs that are super happy with them, that have had them for a long time because they, you know, they've held out through COVID. They just held on to them bit, you know, the HOA and holding costs for the almost near 1.5 2 years that they had to hold on to it, and now are really happy that they did. You know, so there's certain opportunities, just like there are in other places with good investments. If you find the right one, I would say go for it. You know, and it checks all of the boxes. There's some opportunities. You know, I get a lot of phone calls from people that are you know, often looking for Airbnb, and I'm telling you, it's not super common to find one of these unicorn properties, because once somebody has one, they hold on to it typically, or when they want to resell it, they're going to sell it for rather high. So you just got to look at your numbers and make sure that it works. But every now and again, there is certainly an opportunity. And what's wonderful is sometimes some of these demand, you know, you to do some work into it. So you got that sweat equity on top of it, and then you're able to really kind of make something from it. But I mean,
For me,
really,
the vacation rental in Hawaii, like you know, you might be able to get decent returns, like maybe a 4 or 5 cap is probably
yeah,
what's to be
yes.
expected.
Mhm.
And I mean, you got a place in Waikiki. So now
Yeah,
those 10 days a month that aren't being used, you book
you
your
can use
vacations
them.
around, and then you can go to a place that 12 months of the year, you've got a vacation
Exactly.
rental that's paying for itself.
Yeah, and it's going to
Yeah.
hold value really well for that
Yeah.
type of property. It's going to hold value year after year. You know, you're really going to be happy with making that type of investment. So if you can find the right one and it checks all of the boxes and you're able to do those nightly rentals, you know, definitely consider it, because then you have yourself a vacation house for you to stay in and enjoy, and your friends can stay in and what have you. So it's a really good opportunity. But again, very restricted, very limited. There are some, but it's not like
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
In
So,
Toronto, we changed our rules because of the pandemic, where you can only rent out your principal residence, because the
Mm.
hotel industry got decimated. Everyone was having these ghost hotels. So then instead of the people going to a
Interesting.
hotel, they just rent all the condos. The condo buildings got run down. It was really, really bad. There
Wow.
was like, I think a couple of murders. Like, it was pretty bad when you start
My
looking big city
goodness.
problems. And then so they said no, no more of that. I'm sure the hotel industry lobbied, and so now in city of Toronto, you can only do Airbnb at your own principal residence. So you're going away for the weekend, you can rent out your space, and
Wow,
you got to prove
that's
it.
super interesting.
Yeah. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's
it's a whole
fascinating.
they
other world
regulated it.
here. Yeah, it's a whole other world with Airbnb here.
Yeah.
Wow,
Because it's not as
that's
much vacationing as it would be for like just like local people wanting to like party downtown and stuff. Vacation
sure.
people,
We
you
have
know, it happens, but
we have
obviously,
people going like down with like Airbnb. You're screwing up the, you know, you're causing the housing crisis. There's
yeah,
12,000 units being used for Airbnb. People can
yeah,
live in those, damn it.
yeah, yeah,
Prices
yeah.
Yeah.
could be affordable now.
I'm sure the hotel industry in Hawaii is saying the same thing. They're probably looking at how to be able to, and the resorts on how to be able to curb those rules. That's why they've got so many
For
rules.
sure. That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
100%. It's politics, and it's the big hotel money that has absolutely done that. And I can, you know, see on the other side of things, in a sense, for homes in neighborhoods that were being rented out as Airbnbs in a tight-knit community, you know, they don't want a house that's circulating, you know, around their families and things like that. So I
Hmm.
do understand that perspective. Yet at the same time, I'm a big believer that you should be able to do what you want with your property that you own, like types of things. Like I believe in
Hmm.
that. But I do also understand, for the sake of a community and a small neighborhood, you know, having just transient, especially like some of the tourists that come here, they have, you know, they're on vacation mode and they're, you know, however it may be, might not
Rowdy.
be the best thing for a community. And I know there's a lot of local people here who feel like, um, outsiders, if you will, are coming up and purchasing all of the properties and not leaving things for the local community here. So there certainly is that conversation that's going on all the time, and has been for a very long time, for decades. That's been a conversation that's been happening. So I know
Yeah.
people still feel that way. So yeah, it's the big hotels that are kind of, you know, trying to restrict people. And then it's also certain local communities who would like the local homes to be really reserved for residents here.
Which makes sense. And I mean, this
We
is
have
not a
that
problem
here
that
too,
only
yeah.
Hawaii has. We have the exact same
We have
thing. I
people
mean,
crying
Yeah.
about having to
right?
move half an hour away from their
The millennials right now,
their
right?
dream area. Yeah.
Yeah, the
45,
generation right now who's just buying their first home, they're all complaining, saying, I grew up in this city and I can't afford to live here, because not necessarily like people foreign to the city, although that does get brought up, but just people with more money than me are driving prices up, and that they
Sure.
are creating this housing crisis where there is no inventory or there is no opportunities, there's no affordable housing.
Yeah.
And we have a big
Mhm.
affordable housing issue here. And it sounds like the same thing happens in Hawaii too.
Yes, the same thing is happening here.
And
What
so
are they
did you
doing
guys
for
have
affordable
a,
housing? Sorry, Daryl, go ahead. Go ahead, Daryl.
I think your question is probably more important, like on
What,
the
what like what
social
we have
kind of
so many things that we talk
level.
about on the show about affordable housing, right? So like
Sure.
we have all these measures and all that kind of stuff. What is the government of Hawaii, like in the state, what are they doing for affordable housing? What are those measures that are in the news that they're always talking about?
So they are building some new buildings specifically in the downtown area called Kaka'ako, which is a newer developed area. And they have some affordable housing kind of scattered throughout there. And some of the new buildings, of course, have to have a portion of the luxury buildings that have like affordable housing in them. So they're kind of doing some of that. I wouldn't say it's a lot or enough. And then they are doing more quote unquote affordable housing on the western side of Oahu. I think that they're going to be trying to do some other things potentially on the Big Island, but I'm just solely speaking for the island of Oahu. They are working on some things. I wouldn't say it's enough. I know that, from what people are saying, they're not feeling like that is enough. And then there's only a certain amount of people who want to live on the west side of the island. It's it's quite far from Honolulu, from the downtown. I know that they're trying to build a second city closer to that western area, which they're kind of halfway through, like a 20-year, 40-year plan to build this second city, but it's not really developed yet. But they are talking about it. I don't know exactly how far out they've really planned, but I think that they've been talking about chipping away at some of these reserved lots on Oahu to start bringing in housing again, because I know that they've been kind of doing everything on a timed plan for some of the sections that they're going to allow for building to be done on them, for developments to be done. But I don't know exactly when that's going to come into play.
So they're saying they'll create more supply,
Yeah.
and that's not working the same way it's not working here.
Yes, it's not working the same way. And again,
Here-
because you just have a ton of people, you have a lot more people than that inventory and that supply that they're trying to provide. And this also the timeliness of it. They're not moving in the way that they should.
It's all
Daryl,
very
go ahead, please
confusing.
jump in.
Well, okay. I was in Hawaii for my honeymoon, okay, 21 years ago. And I was like, this is like a paradise. This place is going to be condos and resorts and people everywhere and overdeveloped 20 years from now if I go back, right? And I can't believe what you're saying. Like it was so. Can you imagine? Like it's so crazy to me. And then the prices. What was $295? Was that for a house within like this complex, or that was a condo? Or
That
what
was a
that thing?
studio condo, like
Studio
300
condo.
square feet without parking.
Wow.
But if you were to say like 20 years ago that was the last time you were here and you were to come back, it's almost the same. We have a lot of things that have been up, facelifted throughout. You have, the whole entire area of Kaka'ako, which is a new like luxury and really beautiful area that they're building. But outside of that, it's almost kind of time capsule. It's a lot of the same, really kind of it's very, very similar to when it was about 20 years ago. Of course, there's been new things. Yes, there has been some updates, but it has remained kind of the same, which some people love. Some people love that it's stayed the same and it hasn't really grown much and they're not really chipping away and they're not adding a bunch of new developments. There's a lot of people that are upset by all of the new stuff that they're doing, but it has remained rather steady in its way for the last 10, 20 years for sure.
It's insane.
I was there 20 years ago too, Daryl. Maybe
were we there at the same time? No, we weren't.
I swear, it's 20 years ago. I was there.
I was there.
2001.
21. Yeah, 2001.
2001. I was in Oahu. Yeah, Waikiki.
We were
Maybe
in
a little bit of Honolulu.
Kauai and Maui. I remember we were in Kauai and it was like 8 o'clock and everybody was asleep. There was nothing going on. We were like, what?
So that thing you just said is something people still say. I have clients that just said that exact same line. I was just on Maui and 8 o'clock, everything shuts down. Like, and it's the same. And Maui and all of these
Really?
other islands are beautiful, but they're on more like even more island time, if you will, where there's no like city. There's only a few matter of restaurants there. And it just, you go to sleep with the sun basically and wake up in the morning with it. But it's a different lifestyle over there, much, much different than Oahu. And some people love that because of it. So if you want more of that like island vibe, that's really going to be over there. Now, is it going to be significantly cheaper, if you will, than Oahu? Not really, not really on those islands. You can find stuff that's going to be different price ranges, ranging on the Big Island to Kauai to Maui, but Maui is still, I mean, it's still going to be similar comparative to the prices here.
So are there any cash flowing investment properties anywhere in Hawaii? Like, could I buy something in Hawaii that made sense without Airbnb and without
Definitely.
paying cash?
Yeah, without paying cash, without buying in cash. Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
to
Like
get it
full
financed
cash,
and
like
still
Yeah,
be
yeah.
able to cash flow.
Maybe
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
50%
So
loan or something?
I would say good moves for that would be to go for something that's like a multifamily, something that's going to be, I mean, the best move that you can do here in Hawaii is to house hack, live in part of it and rent out like 3 different areas or whatever. Like that is like the ultimate. I was just in a listing of mine that's like a studio on one side, a 3-bedroom on top, 3-bed 2-bath on top, and a 3-bed 2-bath on bottom. That is like a perfect setup for you to like really capitalize, because you could purchase that whole property with your loan, live in the studio area basically, and rent out the 2, and like you would be sitting really pretty. You would do more of a long-term rental with that, or month to month with maybe a big company or like traveling nurses or something like that, where you're going to be able to really benefit from the rental. That would be a great way. Or other homes here where you can really rent out portions of it. So there's opportunities to have what's called like ohana units, which is the additional dwelling unit type of a thing, where you're going to have like a whole other little house on the property when it's zoned correctly.
That's such a better name. Ours is Garden Suites.
What are they
Oh,
calling it?
Garden
Ohana
Suites is
Suites?
nice.
Garden
Oh.
Suites.
Yeah.
What
Say
do
it
you
again?
call it?
I call it an ohana unit. So ohana
Ohana
means
unit.
family,
unit.
you know.
Oh,
Way better.
Yeah.
Way better.
So yeah,
Ohana
there's
unit.
that, and that will often, cater. There's often 3 generations that are living together here in Hawaii, so that's kind of why it's called that way. So you can have like grandma, grandpa in the back,
We're
and then the
sticking
whole
grandma and
family in
grandpa in the
house.
garden over here.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
What is Ohana mean?
trying
Gardens.
to we're
What's
trying to
the
get them as far away
translation?
as possible.
Yeah,
What's the
ohana means
translation?
family. So
Family
there's that Disney
unit.
movie Lilo and Stitch where there's a big line in that. But yeah, so there's a lot of those types of properties where you can kind of chop it up a little bit and really maximize the most of it. That's, in my opinion, the best way to do that. We do not have traditional duplexes. There's like a couple. I'm not going to say that there's absolutely none, but there are few. There's not like your traditional duplexes and fourplexes. They're going to be like multi-family, like big homes. You do have opportunities to get 8 doors, in one building. You have those types of things. And then you also have like, those are categorized though, like as a multi-family on a loan, that way. So you're going to have a different type of loan program that's going to go with that. So what I would recommend is finding a single family home that you can kind of break apart. So you can call your primary, live in part of it, totally house hack, and then rent out the majority of the house, if you will, if that suits your needs. And that would be like the most optimal. I've got colleagues and friends that are doing that, and it's a really, really great way to maximize on some of these larger properties, especially when those price points for something like that is anywhere from 1.3 to 1.7
That was my
and
next
up.
question.
Yeah.
So
So
not
those
300,000 anymore. So
no.
1.3 to 1.7.
Median home price on Oahu right now is 1.1 million, some change
Yep.
like that for median.
Yep.
And
So
for
if I-
condos,
Consistent with us.
condos median are 550 something ballpark.
Isn't that a
like
good market to work in? I'm an agent too. I work in Toronto, right? And our average price is $1 million, condos, everything included, right? So
Yeah, wow.
it's
Yeah,
a nice market to
it's
be in, right?
I love working in this market. Yes, the price point is very nice to be a part of for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you probably have Colorado like knowledge, and I'm sure Colorado's prices are much different.
Yeah, they're different. They're close to being the same, but they are different for sure. Definitely different than Hawaii. And I have a lot of colleagues that are on like the East Coast, and they're crushing it. Granted, they do more volume, but a lot of their properties are going to be like 259, and that's a 3-bed 2-bath house. Where
Yeah.
I'm in contract right now, 3-bed 2-bath house, it's listed at 1.9.
Exactly.
So things
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
but my taxes might be a lot different than theirs. So
Right.
What do they call that again? The resort fee. That's just the resort fee. Don't worry.
Resort
fee.
That's
fee.
what you
It's
get for being
Membership.
on
That's
the
what I meant.
island,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Membership to the
Membership.
Ohana
Yes.
lifestyle.
Yes, it's the resort
Holy.
membership fee.
So hold on. So if we had $1 million cash right now, what is the best thing to do with it in Hawaii as an investor? If we had one deal that we could do, what would you suggest that we would do there?
With $1 million, I would buy a single family house, something that needs some work for sure to do sweat equity. I would do basically like a BRRRR with that $1 million and buy a house that's going to be in a really well-liked area, whether that's because it's going to be near like military or like a good school district or like good areas.
For how much? How much is that house going
Surfing
to cost
area.
us?
I'm sorry.
How much does the cost of the house for something like that? Like,
Well, it depends on condition, but you're going to be looking if it's in like, needs a rehab work anywhere from, well, 850 to about $1 million. So you'd probably have to take out a construction loan if you had $1 million to do like a rehab on
But the
that.
goal would be $1 million total after.
Okay, $1 million
repair, right?
total after repair, then you would probably want to purchase either like a townhouse. You could get a 3-bed, 2-bath townhouse easily with $1 million and then rent that out and cash flow that. You could likely find for sure more outside of like the metropolis area. You could find a single family home that you could buy for 7 to 800,000. No, not in this market anymore. More towards 800,000 that needs some love. Put some work into that, and then probably be all in at $1 million and be able to house hack out of it. Hopefully, you're living in a portion of it and you're renting out the majority. That would be like the dream deal with $1 million all in, is to find something that needs some rehab, single family house, not condo, and house hack that. So live in a portion of it. That would be the ultimate, which would be possible. It's just going to be in maybe it's going to be in more of like the central or like more possibly western side of Oahu specifically. If you had $1 million, also, I would say Big Island is wonderful. It's a great place for properties like that if you wanted to live there. It's a beautiful island as well. The prices are going to be much different and the lifestyle is different. The renting market is a little bit different, so you have to factor all of those things into there as well. But that would be an option that I would recommend very much if you're not looking to do a short-term rental, but more to long-term rental in order to cash flow, is buy something maybe over there.
Yeah,
cool.
but your
TK.
BRRRR option in the beginning, right? So maybe you got to get a little bit more money, take a loan out afterwards, buy a property for $1 million, and you think after repair value could be somewhere in the 1.7 area. That's
Oh,
possible.
totally. Depending.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
nice. Yeah.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah,
So
there's
you
a
said
way
the
to.
market. You said in this market. Let's
Then
just
she
talk about
went
that for the
up
end
with
of
the
our show.
price.
The market. What's that?
But she said like 900 or no 800,000, and then you
Yeah.
said no, not in this market.
Not in this market. So is this
800,000.
a good market? Are we? Yeah,
What's
that went
going
up
on
right
over
now.
there?
We got
Yeah.
25 to 30% price declines over the last 4 or 5 months in Toronto right now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
Jerome
I
Powell's
was.
not helping us out with those announcements he keeps making.
Sure. So the reason why I changed that is just because single family homes, to find something that's going to be, in the caliber that I think would meet, say, your needs, just speaking theoretically, if you're wanting to buy an investment property, I'm not going to say that it's possible. Sorry, not possible, easy to find a house, 3-bedroom plus 2-bathroom for 700,000 that needs just a little bit of work and is going to check all of the boxes and be in an area that makes sense for the rental capabilities.
Yeah.
That doesn't really exist anymore because of over the last few years, those houses that were possibly on the market for 750 went up to like 950. And now on the market, there's still low inventory. So is that going to sell and close at 950 for finding a gem that makes a lot of sense financially for people? Might close at $1 million now because you have still competing offers here. So if it's priced right to begin with on the market, if it's priced right, you're going to still have competition. There's a listing that I saw the other day for one of my
Jealous.
clients that's listed at 880, which was a really good price for a near teardown. This thing has to be purchased in cash because it has a lot of mold. There's a lot of cracks. The underwriter and appraiser would totally not let that fly. But that property was priced at 880, and you bet your ass that that's closing over that for sure. And it's going to be, you know, ocean view mountain house looking over the water. But not in like a primo area, great neighborhood still, but yeah, so 880. So, you know, that's why I corrected myself. For when I say this market, I mean the current market on Oahu specifically.
Mhm.
700 on the Big Island, different story. It's a different market
Is
over
the
there.
market going up or
Yeah,
down right
yeah.
now?
Yeah. Is it
It is
strong?
steady for sure
Steady.
because of our lack of inventory, which I know everybody's still facing nationwide
Mhm.
here in the US. So I would say it's steady, but what we're having is corrections. So a lot of price adjustments, just like, you know, those price drops. But does that mean that the value is decreasing? I think it's just a correction from the massive overpricing and overselling purchase prices that were happening over the last 2 years. I know
Yeah.
that everybody was just like, you know, $200,000 over asking price, 30% increases in value for, you know, a year. That's not
Mhm.
normal. That's not a
Mhm.
normal market. And you know why that is? It's because of the low interest rates and the competition and people just like swarming to get deals and deals and deals. That's
Yeah.
different now, right? So we have less competition for these properties. Does that mean we have no competition? No, but we have less, and are people jumping on properties now? No, because they don't have to. So some of these
Mm.
people are waiting to buy. There's a little bit more inventory to look at, but buyers now have time to breathe that are still able to buy in this market. They now have time to breathe. They could look at maybe more properties than one. They could really kind of take a little bit more time. Whereas I was working with a ton of buyers that they'd see something, not even see the inside. We got to make an offer. No questions asked. Just like, make an offer on this one. Blah, blah, blah.
15-minute showings we had.
Yes. Yeah.
15-minute showings. It was all booked all day. You couldn't go in the house. And then in
Yeah.
that 15 minutes, you needed a decision on where you're going to live for the next 25 years. And you better have seen enough because you're not getting
Exactly.
another chance to get in.
Exactly. And that
Yeah.
was the same thing here and on the mainland. And now that's a little different. And now I
Mhm.
think it's still a great time to buy and take advantage of, you know, just getting in now rather than waiting. I don't recommend waiting. Do I think that there's going to be a significant housing crash? My opinion, and not even just my opinion, but from what I'm reading and seeing, my answer would be no. I think it still is a wise idea to purchase something, and you as a buyer now have a lot more ability to take time and make sure that this is the house that you want, and also, you know, figure out how you're going to finance all of it properly. And I don't know. I think that it's a much
Check
better
for
time.
mold and cracks.
That was my next
Which-
question was like, when I say to people around here that I think it's a really good idea to go pay cash for a house, they think I'm crazy because everybody talks about leverage, leverage, leverage. But you keep saying cash like it's like normal. Is that more normal in Hawaii to buy stuff cash? Or do
We
people
have a
still
lot of we have a lot of cash buyers here. We have a lot of people that use loans also, and VA loans are very, very popular since we have a ton of military personnel. But there's certainly a lot of
what's a
people.
VA loan?
VA loan is for veterans.
Oh.
It's a veteran loan that basically is 0% down for your property. So you do have closing costs associated with that, but you don't have to put any down payment. If you do, that's just kind of like a bonus that can help you with some of your rates. But it's
Wow.
basically, yeah, 0% down. You have to live in the property for the first year, but it is a magical way to start investing in real estate. I teach veterans all the time, and some of them, I can't even believe, don't know this, that you can use your VA loan more than once. Use your VA loan, especially in Hawaii. Buy a house in Hawaii for no money down and get one property, live in it for a year, move out of it, refinance, buy another property, no money down, rent that other one out. That's paying for itself. Now you've got another property that you're living in for a year.
Can
And
I
then you just,
partner with the
oh my
guy
God.
who
How do you join the U.S. Army?
qualifies for a VA loan?
What is the application process?
Who knows anybody?
We used to
Yeah.
have some no
Put
money
it
down
in the
stuff. You could do the
comments.
same. Yeah, but the VA stuff, that obviously makes sense for people, and they don't know, right? So you need a good realtor. You need someone to
Don't.
educate them.
Yeah.
They need to be
There's
able to
some
go
that
through
do.
that.
There's a lot that don't. And that's been
Yeah.
really wonderful to be able to teach a lot of the veterans, you know, about the powers of the VA loan and how
Yeah.
wonderful that is for people. And I mean, of course, there's other ways for non-military members to purchase to purchase a property without using your money, right? I think you guys had a podcast on that, and Bigger Pockets is very popular for how to use other people's money, quote unquote.
Absolutely.
So that's, always a good route to explore. And if you can buy something in cash and then do the BRRRR refi, pull that cash out, whether that's from private money or whatever it is, and then, refi that, there's tons of options that are out there. Creative financing options, subject to, things like that, like really need to continue to be explored, especially in this market with the higher interest rates and with people that might be struggling upcoming to continue to pay for the homes that they bought at a really high price point. Maybe we'll see that in a year or so, where some people might have to sell those because they can no longer afford them. I don't know, just conversations that I'm hearing. So in those circumstances, it might be good as a buyer to use creative financing, and
Mhm.
things like that. And now there's a lot of sellers that are, offering credits for buy downs for some of these buyers to get them into, purchasing their property, which is another great thing to explore. So it's what I really love is the creative ways for people to invest and buy and do anything with real estate. And it's now a really good time to exercise a lot of those creative ways. Whereas before it was like conventional loan, just get this awesome rate, like
Firm
crazy madness,
offer,
one way.
no
Yeah.
conditions.
No
Yeah, 'cause you
conditions. You had
That's
couldn't.
this.
it. You better have it figured out.
You
Yeah,
couldn't. You had a
exactly.
gun to your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't
Yeah.
have a
So,
choice. People
mhm.
wanted to be creative, but they couldn't.
Right. And I think that now it's such a great time to realize that it's not what it was a couple of years ago. And that can be a bad or good thing for people, however you spin it. But I think it's a good thing now. It's where we are now, and we can only deal with what we've got right now. So how do
Mhm.
we deal with it? We be creative and we find the means to get into real estate and whether that's your primary or whether that's investing. It's a great time to continue to pursue that, because I firmly believe that real estate is one of the best places, if not the best place in my opinion, to put your money. That's,
You're preaching to the choir,
so yeah.
right? So a couple things. So have you ever worked with Canadians?
I have worked with Canadians. Yes, I
Who
have
said
like
that before?
3 or 4.
You said that Canadians are buying, right? So because we
Oh.
want to make sure we give you a nice little plug, and we're going to put
She
your
said
information in the description,
she
because
worked
I
with
think
a
that
brilliant Canadian investor guy.
Yes, he's great.
and I want to make sure that our listeners, because they're mostly Canadian, are going to be able to have an opportunity to be able to go out to Hawaii. It seems like you have a lot of information about the
Mhm.
island. And do you work
Yeah.
on other islands or only Oahu? How does licensing and all
So
that stuff work?
I work statewide. So I primarily do Oahu and Big Island. And then I have
Okay.
amazing partners on Maui and Kauai, just because those are the islands I'm the least right now. Maybe that'll change, but right now I do Big Island and Oahu. Um, And I mean, another thing, I will be licensed in Colorado. That's not right now, though. But another thing that I have started is basically a nationwide and actually global company that's basically a community combining the music industry with the real estate world. So if anybody is, whether you're musically inclined or what have you, or you musician, and you don't really know how to get started in real estate, that's what this community is all about, is really kind of speaking to you and showing you the tools and having a community specifically built for music and real estate. So that's something that
That's
I
cool.
also have that is nationwide and worldwide, because I also have people in Germany that are a part of this as well. So it's kind of starting to.
Dale and I are both musicians, but we're terrible. And I'll speak for us, but we're still there. We're still musicians. I think that's
Awesome.
neat. That's unique.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before.
It's
What does that entail exactly?
so well,
Uh,
this network is called Heavy Realty, and it is for everybody in any genre. But this basically is a community where you can come to either learn about investing in real estate, buying your first home. You could come to here to, really connect with people that are like-minded in some way to help you sell your property, get any type of advice with real estate. It's also built for working with higher end clientele, since right now in my network I have about 20 people, 20 members that are all affiliated with the music industry. So for example, I have one guy who lives in Beverly Hills, and he is the bass tech for Gene Simmons from Kiss. So I've got another person that is in California. They've been with touring with the band Slayer for a really long time until that band retired. I've got a woman in Tennessee who works with the band Bush. We have people that understand what it takes to work with very high level performers and musicians and things like that. So we understand what that
That's
requires
cool.
for
Yeah.
that
That's
type
a
of client
niche and a
also.
half, eh? That's a
So it's
super niche.
basically anyone who is a lifelong renter who thinks that they're incapable of buying their first house because of their work history, maybe because they're on tour all the time, spotty work history, I'll tell you, you don't have to use a conventional loan. There's other ways to buy a house, as you know. So that's something, is educating them. And then it's all the way up to servicing, the upper end of that level of musician. You're platinum recording, and then you're all the way down to like, you've never owned a house before, you're always on tour, you've never explored that because you didn't think it was for you. I'll tell you, it's for you. It's for everybody. There's a way to get it done. And I really felt like there was a big disservice to that whole community. So that's why this whole thing has started.
Neat.
That's so
Well,
cool.
we'll put that in the description. We are at the end of the show, and we really appreciate it. I know we started a little bit late, but
So
No
we
worries.
definitely really appreciate your time. I think I learned a lot about Hawaii, and I definitely think that you're knowledgeable. And anybody who's looking to buy or sell, invest, or even just kind of learn about what's going on the island should reach out to you. And I know you're with EXP. We're going to put your
I am.
information below. Social media as well too. We can post that as well.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yep. You can do me on Instagram is where I'm at for that. So it'd be at
Okay.
Juliet Lalouel and then at Heavy Realty. Those are where you can find me.
Nice. I like it.
Very cool. Very different. I love that idea. That was cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Have a great
Yeah.
day.
Thanks, guys.
Everybody, goodbye.